Hello again, and welcome back to YourGift.Life. I am Dave, and with me again this week is Toby, and our special guest today is Mr. Walter Woods.
Hello,
Uh,
hello.
Welcome, Walter. We're really
Thank
excited to
you.
have you on the show.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, you're very welcome. We've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of different organizations and people that are doing some pretty awesome things in their community, and we're really excited to learn kind of about things that you're involved with, things you're doing, especially even about with the Humana Foundation, and just hear some good stories and hopefully share the word a bit and get some more interest out there to learn about what's going on in the Louisville community, but nationally.
Great. Sounds good.
So what got you into the nonprofit world?
Well, I never really thought I would be working in this space. Each of us, is shaped by our lived experiences. So I grew up in the Air Force. My dad was in the military. So I grew up watching him serve our country. And my mother was a special ed teacher. So I grew up watching her really transform lives of kids that were thrown away by our public school systems because they were deemed as kids that weren't able to learn, which wasn't true. It's just that they learned differently, and so she accepted them. And I had these amazing examples of two parents that were really trying to make a difference, and they were. And I guess in the end, I ended up doing the same thing. This whole idea of serving others is really a consequence of the experiences I had growing up.
Oh, that's awesome. So having a military family, did you move a lot and see a lot of the
Yeah.
country and the world probably?
Yeah, my sister was born in Turkey, Ankara, Turkey. We lived in Kitzbühel. We lived in Germany and all through Europe, and came back stateside and lived in Oklahoma and a bunch of other states. So we've moved around a lot.
Wow. So what brought you to, are you in Louisville?
I am. Yeah.
What brought you to Louisville?
Well, my dad was born here. He was born right down the street from David Jones Sr.,
Hmm.
who passed away a couple of years ago. My dad just turned 80, and he grew up on the other side of town because the city was a little more segregated than it is now. And so he grew up here and worked at Brown and Williamson after he left the military. And so we have roots here. I have roots here. I went to Cameron Middle School and Ballard High School, and then I left to go to Georgia with my dad.
That's awesome. Yeah, I live in Southern Indiana, but in Louisville area my whole life. And my stepbrother actually graduated from Ballard, so that's cool.
Oh, okay. It's a good school.
Yeah. So, we know that you work with the Humana Foundation. Can you talk a little bit about kind of your role with the foundation and
Yeah.
what you guys are up to lately?
Yeah, my role really is to lead the organization. So that means managing the board, managing the staff, managing our endowment, which is $437 million in it right now. We received 200 million last year from the corporation. I gave 50 million of those dollars out, or we gave 50 million of those dollars out for COVID specifically last year, focusing on behavioral health, capacity building for nonprofits, and food security. And the other 150 million went into our endowment. So we really are about co-creating communities. That's really what we're trying to do, is focusing on four impact areas: food security, financial asset security, post-secondary success and sustaining employment, and social connectedness. And using our resources, not only our financial, but our social, our moral, our intellectual, and our reputational. I like to call it our Smurf capital, to really create communities, improve communities where leadership, culture, and systems really work to improve and sustain positive health outcomes. So we're all about, making sure that people live their best health, recognizing that some of them aren't. And so what can we do to help improve that situation?
So, do you all connect pretty closely to other community-based organizations that are maybe more integrated into the community that they serve, and then you help
We do.
support them? Yeah.
Yeah. So we have an identification process, a selection process that decides which organizations that we want to work with. We have a process local to Louisville called the Community Partners Program. And then we have a national program called our Strategic Community Program that focuses on 8 communities across the Southeast. And we work with them to do what you just said.
Cool. I know Humana has the bold goal and has bold goal communities. Do you all participate and kind of seen as a partner with that?
We do. We are, in addition to being out in the community, we integrate across the enterprise. So we work with the population health leads in each of those markets that I just talked about. They were called the market development advisors before, and they just changed their title. Now they're population health leads. So we also have to integrate across the enterprise so that we don't duplicate services, and we really figure out how to leverage our resources with the corporation's resources to deepen the impact in those markets that we're in. So that's a constant balancing act, really trying to make sure that we understand what's happening in the community, as well as understanding what's happening internally so that we can figure out how to complement everybody's work, not duplicate it.
So you mentioned a lot of different things that the Humana Foundation does, but would you be able to put a story together without obviously specifics of how this has impacted you as an individual and things that you're able to do that makes you to drive the passion to keep moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I could identify right away is the mentorship and the sponsorship that I do of people, leaders, kids, young adults that really are trying to figure out what they can do with their lives or what should they do with their lives, and really giving advice and helping. I think a lot of people look at my life as a positive example, and I seem to think that it is. It has been because of my parents and what they instilled in me, a work ethic and a belief in people, right? I believe that most people are good, and they just want to be able to give back and to strengthen communities and to achieve who they were born to be. So really helping people understand what that means, teaching them how to understand what their passions are and really following their passions, not following titles, not following income levels, but really following a passion that you have, that you need to live out. So that's the best part of my job, is to really do that. I do a lot of connecting for people because I have access to so many resources, not only in Louisville, but around the country. And so when you are a funder, people constantly seek you out. They're always asking you for something. So helping them recognize that it's really not always about the money. It's about the relationship that you can develop with each other to figure out how you can work together to make something better.
One of the things that we've got to really cement the view of what all these nonprofits and everything that people are doing, excuse me, when we talk to folks like yourselves, is that you see how much it does for the person who's actually being able to help someone else.
Yep.
It's ends up not being a job. It ends up being a passion. You get more out of it than what you tend to give. So it's always good to see that. And based on what you've told us about your story and everything, obviously you're a positive influence. You could be a positive influence on a lot of folks. So that's great.
I think it's important for people to marry their soul with their role, right? So when you do that, you really are following your calling, because you're leading with your passion, not with all the other things that some people think they need to lead with. And so I like to say, it's important to combine your role with your soul.
Yeah, I love that. I'm reading. I just finished a book from John Gordon. It was The Power of Positive Leadership, and one of the quotes he made in there is that oftentimes when people experience burnout, it's not because of the work; it's because they've forgotten their why, that was why they found that spot. So
that's so true, and that's one of the reasons why when I bring a team together, we focus on strengths. So I have them go through our Strength Finders exercise, and it's facilitated by HR. There's a person that is an expert at doing this and helping people understand what they're good at. We are so quick to tell people what they're not good at that they forget what they're good at. So by focusing on a strength, that helps people really understand what their passions are, what their purpose is. And we just went through that exercise last week with my new team, to have them go through the exercise, and light bulbs go off all the time, because people, always tell me, I've never really thought about that before. And how sad is that, to really not focus on your strengths? We shouldn't encourage people to focus on their deficits all the time.
Yeah, and excuse me, you mentioned that, and when we were trying to figure the name out for this platform, we were thinking about, we knew what we wanted to do, but we were like, how can we name this that would indicate what we're trying to get accomplished? And it's really trying to figure out what your gift is,
Mhm.
and talking about your gift, and being able to tangibly put something to that. So, because we believe everybody has a gift, and we
Yeah.
want to be able to shine on that gift, and a lot of times people don't understand what their gift is. So
No, they don't, because they've never been asked to just focus on it and concentrate on it. So, when I first started doing it, people would look at me like, why would we do this? Why aren't we focusing on what I need to improve on? And I always telling them, because I don't want to lead like that. It's not important for me to say you're broken and, let's focus on how to mend you. I'm not doing that. I don't have time for that. Let's focus on what makes you strong, what makes you amazing, and let's celebrate that as a team, so that we can get more we can accomplish more.
Yeah, even as a team, but when you get out in the community and you get to see people who can be amazing, but they've never been told that,
Right.
you get to spread that positivity to other folks as well.
Yeah, and it's such an easy thing to do that we don't do. The second you do it, it's like giving people that have been parched water. They just bloom. I mean, when you say, wow, you're really good at something, or I like the way you do that, it changes their outlook on life, really, because they recognize that someone sees them for who they are and believes in them for what they can do.
Yeah, it's funny that you said it, because just today I saw, I think it was a post on LinkedIn that said that science has proven that if you talk nicely and you tell a plant like positive things, that a plant will actually respond. It says, imagine if we treated other humans that way, what our world would be like.
Yeah, and we treat animals and plants better than we treat our own human beings. There's so many examples of that every time you turn on the television, which is why I got rid of TV 10 years ago, because it was just too negative. I just kept getting sucked into all the negative stuff that the news chooses to put out there. And I was really starting to disbelieve in humanity. So I had to turn it off. And I've just had an amazing experience just doing that one thing. People think that there are all these complicated things you need to do to live a happy life, but they're really not that complicated. The first thing you need to do is maybe not watch television, or not participate in social media too much, because all those things are taking us further away from our humanity and that humanness that we need to have with each other to support each other.
That's amazingly simple, but incredibly hard.
It's
So
incredibly hard. It took me 3 months to get my television provider to actually cut the cord. They offered to give me a TV. They offered to give me all the services. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, no, I just want to end my relationship with you. And it took me 3 months to do it. I could not believe it.
That is the experience everyone's had with their cable company, I think. But the crazy thing about that too is you could almost parlay it into some things that we've heard from Steve Jobs and from Bill Gates about how they didn't let their own kids have the technology that their own companies sold, and how they limited their access to, whether it be an iPhone or an iPad or even a TV. And it's and those folks know the impact of that better than anybody. I'm sure they study it.
If you don't know how to manage it, and especially as a child, you don't know that yet, because you just haven't had enough experiences. It's really important to limit exposure to those things, because it's just not the way you should be growing up.
Yeah. So, we talked a little bit about the impact of, giving back to you and to us, but do you have any, I know as a leader, often in an organization, the size of Humana and the Humana Foundation, you can find yourself getting, pretty distant from the actual, like, boots on the ground, the lives that are truly being impacted. Can you talk a little bit about how you make sure that you always bring yourself back, and if you have any stories of real
Yeah.
lives that have been changed?
One of the things that I did when I first got here was encourage my team and myself to really get out of the office, to push the chair back away from the desk, and to get proximate with the communities that we were working in, and to push yourself, to be in spaces that maybe you wouldn't normally go into, and to feel that what that feels like, to experience what that feels like, to feel if it's uncomfortable, to feel that, to really begin to understand what the population that you're trying to change is going through. So that gives you more deeper respect for the work and the solutions that these nonprofits are providing. So, for instance, Family Scholar House, which is right here in Louisville, Kentucky, and Kathy Dykstra is the leader, an amazing leader that is really helping young women get themselves back on their feet and get an education. Because we know that education, I know that, changes your life. It's one of those things that it's really true. The more you learn, the further you are able to go in this society that we've set up here, this capitalistic society. It's easier to maneuver in the system when you have an education. And so, the constant stories of her, especially she has a graduation event that she invited me to be the speaker, and it was just amazing. The women that she's inspiring, and helping realize that they are just as valuable as anyone else. A lot of people in the communities we work with feel that they are disposable, that
Mm.
our society has thrown them away, and that they're not as valuable as someone else. But each of us is valuable. No one's more valuable than anyone else. And I think this pandemic is constantly reminding us of that. When
Mhm.
you're on a Zoom call and you're on a Zoom call with all kinds of people, that's an equalizing experience. Your block is right next to potentially the CEO of a corporation. So this pandemic is teaching us we are more connected than we realize. And we've got to start remembering that we are, because whatever happens to one person happens to all of us. It might not be direct, but indirectly it impacts our lives. And so it's important for us to lift up the weakest link in our communities, because it makes that community stronger. And the second we believe that and really believe it, the stronger we'll become as communities. The reason foundations exist is because we believe and recognize that strong communities do not. Otherwise, there would be no need for a foundation sector at all.
Mm.
The corporate foundation sector, there are 83,000 foundations in the United States. And 2,700 of those are corporate foundations, which is what we are. So corporate foundations give out $5 billion a year. That's crazy. Why do we
Mhm.
It's
have to do that?
amazing. Mm.
That's crazy.
That is
uh,
crazy.
we should
Well,
not
and that
have to
doesn't
do that.
even, at Humana, especially in the Medicare segment where we serve seniors, that doesn't even account for things that are just built into our product and the normal service. One of the things that we experienced when we did these member outreaches is that we had seniors that were our members, part of the 4.2 million individual Medicare members that Humana serve, that said they just don't want to feel like a burden. And it was so eye-opening that you
Yeah,
have
that's
like
not good.
these folks that live their entire life that like such low-hanging fruit, unfortunately, that's just like to help someone not feel like a burden.
Yeah,
It's pretty
that's
amazing.
not good. Our senior population is a resource that every society has that is waiting to be tapped, not ignored. And we consistently ignore that population that we should cherish, because after they've worked so hard to make our community stronger, we treat them like they're disposable and they become invisible. And there's no excuse for that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Totally agree. Now, are there any other organizations that you either locally to Louisville or nationally that you've met through the foundation, or just personally that that are just making a difference out there that you
Yeah,
just
there's an organization out of New York called Older Adults Technology Services, OATS for short, that teaches seniors, it connects seniors to technology.
hmm,
We just released a report with them called Aging Connected, and we have created a consortium of organizations called the Aging Connected Consortium that has a website, agingconnected.org. that has a goal of connecting 1 million seniors over the next 2 years to wireland broadband.
Mm.
So they're able to digitally access healthcare and any other kind of resource that they might need to access. The report revealed that there are 22 million seniors currently not connected to broadband. That's
Wow.
42% of the US population that's over 65. That's the first time that number's been revealed. I just did a fireside chat today with Humana talking about that with the executive director of Oates, Tom Camber. And so that's our goal for the next 2 years, is to connect 1 million older adults. An older adult is someone over 65. Some people don't like to use the word senior, so we try to like stay away from that because that ages people too much. And my dad always tells me, he just turned 80. Aging is a privilege, but it has a snag, right? So that snag is being disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're disconnected, the health consequences of that are significant. It could actually lead to death, premature death. People that are isolated and are lonely they live 15 years less than other people. There are other health consequences in terms of anxiety and heart attacks and all kinds of things. So this idea of social connectedness is really why we're focusing on it, because we recognize that the negative health consequences of it are not good.
When you talk about being connected, I mean, we're connected now. I'm in one state, and I'm assuming you're in another, and we're able to talk and have a good conversation without really any real effort. There wasn't any much effort just to get us together.
Right.
And being able to provide those seniors or older adults to be able to be connected to family and friends periodically would be so much more beneficial than them just waiting for a phone call on a Sunday afternoon. Being
Right.
able to see somebody's face and see their smile and their emotions. So being able to connect with the older population, technology wise, is a huge asset to be able to not only provide them with that connectedness, but just overall health and happiness. Because
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine if I was alone by myself and all I was waiting for was a phone call, and this is available, then I would starve for this type of interaction.
Yeah. So he's created something called Senior Planets, which is a space that seniors can go to and do this type of thing, learn how to access technology. They can take Zoom classes, they dance, they take all kinds of things. And so we found them through our grant making process, and they have been amazing. The work that they do transforms and saves lives. I would definitely encourage you to go to oats.org to take a look at what they're doing.
That sounds awesome. From the foundation perspective, I know that Humana, as a corporate sponsor and citizen, contributes quite a bit. Are there fundraisers or ways that just individuals that want to participate, that are moved by the mission, that they could also donate or get involved?
That was one of the first things that David Jones Sr. asked me when I interviewed for this job. I'm a fundraiser by background. I like raising money. That's what I did before I came here. He said, "Are you sure you're going to be able to not raise money? Because we don't need you to do that. We have more money than we need. We need you to help us figure out how to give it out in the most impactful way." So we do not raise money. We use the money that's in our endowment. We have to spend a certain percentage of that every year. At least 5% has to go back into community. So 5% of 437 million is what we have to spend every year. I don't have to raise money.
I guess that's a good problem.
That's it, if you think about it that way, there are other issues that you have to think about, but that I like fundraising. So for me, it's a challenge because I like raising money. But it's really now about, again, strategies that we develop and what's the best strategy with which population and which market for the impact that we're trying to create, which is basically more healthy days. We want people to live their best health, because that health then allows you to fulfill your self-determination, which is what the Declaration of Independence talks about, right?
Mm.
Pursuit of happiness. So that's really ultimately what this is about.
Yeah, and we talked about social determinants, and of which technology and access is becoming one that's more clear today. But I've seen studies that were presented that have suggested that as much as 80% of our healthcare spend is driven by social determinants of health, and to know that the foundation and Humana in a big way is really focused on closing those gaps can make a huge difference. And that's a national thing. We hear about healthcare costs and how expensive it is in America all the time. And
right. We have also created an internal platform called Humana Together that allows associates to give to up to 2 million nonprofits and also volunteer time through that. So it's a platform that I created while I was here that combines 7 systems that volunteers had before I got here into one system. So I encourage everyone to go to Humana Together and use that platform to donate to organizations that you want to donate to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I know that I know it's Humana, but I don't know if it's the Humana Foundation or does this, but a lot of times when they have associates that will donate money or volunteer times, they sometimes match those donations.
Yeah, we do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's always a great thing. But I had a question. You mentioned earlier you had a lot of people with a lot of asks, so they come to you guys for things. How would someone maybe hearing this for the first time that didn't know of the Humana Foundation, and maybe it's something that you would be able to help? How would they get in contact with you and provide that ask?
They, first of all, wouldn't contact me because I don't want people who have access to me to have any preferential treatment. So we have a website called the humanafoundation.org. The website has an application process that you fill out. Right now, we have a form that you can fill out to let us know you're interested in becoming one of our partners. And we will then begin to start the process of engaging you after you fill out a form. But no one talks to me. That wouldn't be fair. So I try to make sure that we have a system that is accessible, is transparent, and so I don't want people who manage to get access to me to have preferential treatment. So we want to stick to a process that everyone has to go through, so that we don't pick and choose based on relationships that people have with me. That's just not fair.
Sure,
that makes a lot of sense.
And we don't do sponsorships. So we that's one thing we don't do. We don't believe in putting money into tables that allow us to sit around in a tuxedo when that money could be going to people in the community, right? I don't want to do that. I love tuxedo events, but I should pay for them myself. I shouldn't have the organization pay for them.
Yeah, I can say that, as a 16-year, Humana employee, to see what we do as an organization in the communities, but that especially that we do through the foundation that often goes unnoticed, which is it's a good thing in one because we're not tooting our horn, but then it's another thing that we've got 50,000 employees across the country that I don't know as much about it as they should, and so
they don't. They really don't. And I really do think if we could drive traffic to our website, they would learn more about benefits that the foundation actually gives them that a lot of people don't take advantage of, like scholarships. We give out scholarships right now, and applications to our scholarships are 40% down right now this year compared to last year. So we're trying to figure out, we create articles on High to try to get the information out, but it's just not getting out. I don't know why.
Well, I remember there was a leader one time in a meeting. It says, who here works in sales? And the sales department basically raised their hand. He's like, no, all of us work in sales. So, I take that as a, personal challenge in some ways to think of as fellow Humana associates, how we can be better about spreading the word when we do learn. And so hopefully people will take that to heart, because you guys are doing some awesome stuff, and we really appreciate you in that part.
Well, all we need them to do is go to the website, because that's where everything that you need to know about the scholarships, about matching gifts, about our current investments, about our application process, it's all there.
Yeah.
About our board, we've made it a bit more transparent than before. So we have bios on our board members, on staff, so that people can see, who's helping me make these decisions, because it's not me. It's the people around me that I manage to move our mission forward to create the impact that we want to create. So I'm just a vehicle.
That's awesome. And, we really appreciate you being on today and
Thank
taking the
you.
time to chat with us. We're really proud of what, Humana and Humana Foundation does, not only locally, but nationally. And we're really excited to kind of share that with others. Is there kind of any parting words of wisdom or advice or things you'd like to make sure people are aware of?
Just remember to be grateful. A lot of people always ask me, how are you feeling? And we can quickly go into whatever the issue is related to civil unrest, related to the pandemic. But the first thing I inspire people to say is thank you. And I'm grateful for, as opposed to focusing again on what you don't have or what you think you need. Because at the end of the day, there are millions of people right now hurting. We're in a crisis situation, whether we believe it or not. People don't have food. People are losing their homes. People are losing their jobs. And we are surrounded by all of this access and resources. So really try to figure out how to use what you have access to help someone else.
I love it. Yeah, that's exactly what the mission of this show is. And so we'd love to end it that way. We couldn't agree more. And we really appreciate your time late on a Friday afternoon, and hope you have a great weekend. And thank
Great.
you
Well,
very much.
thank you, Dave and Toby, for everything you do. We need more people like you to remind us what to be grateful for.
Oh,
Thank
we
you.
definitely have a lot. So thank you very much.
Have a good evening and have a good weekend.
All
You
right.
too.
Take care.
Bye.